On today's Locked On Texans podcast, why John Metchie return timetable looks promising, some new news for a new week, and we are joined by Brian Miller of Ocean View Sports. Today's going to be a great episode. Can't wait to be back. Cody, let's start off the show.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am newly married, Johnson Sports Guy Hickman. Of course, I'm joined by none other than Cody Davis, and today's episode is going to be centered around the possibilities of John Metchie returning. Before we talk about John Metchie, the Houston Texans have waived Scottie Phillips from injury reserve. Scottie Phillips is a running back, at least in this past year. Cody and I had really kind of petitioned for, to get him out of the field. The run game was just atrocious, and at some point, we both felt like a new face was needed. Scottie Phillips was never going to be the face here in Houston. They have moved on, and the running back depth chart now looks like Marlon Mack, Damian Pierce, Rex Burkhead, and Dare Ogunbowale, who also played for the Jacksonville Jaguars last season, had a fairly decent season for the time that he was featured in for the Jags. But Cody, John Metchie, we may see him a little bit earlier than we had expected. Dr. Lau Kane, Alabama's team physician, said that John Metchie's progress of his torn ACL, and I quote, "He's beating every timetable we normally have, and if he continues along the schedule, that schedule in his recovery in Houston, he has a good chance to be ready to play week one." I think that's very promising for a lot of people to hear. The expectations surrounding John Metchie, I think, for the city of Houston is fairly high, pretty decent for a rookie receiver. They believe, a lot of fans, and I think the coaching staff as well, believes he brings something different to Houston that they may have not had in the past couple of seasons. Surely hasn't had during the time span of Nick Caserio's tenure so far as the manager for Houston. I know he's probably a guy that, head coach Levy Smith would like to use as well. But does this bring maybe more so of an optimistic hope, or hearing that he's beating the timetable, he's progressing well? When you hear that, do you think, okay, fine, let him continue to progress well, and so just whenever he's ready to play football, we know he's more than a 100% to play?
I think it's more so the latter. And I like the position that John Metchie is in because, look, first and foremost, we all here in the city of Houston are hoping, and some of us are expecting Metchie to take the helm as this team's number one wide receiver for the foreseeable future. However, he's in the best opportunity to do so because he isn't forced to take the helm as the number one wide receiver this year, and even more so next year as well, because you still have Brandon Cooks, and also you still have Nico Collins, who has put together a damn good camp, whether it be involuntary or mandatory. Nico Collins has looked great. This injury that John Metchie has underwent, look, all injuries are bad. However, it has given him an opportunity to learn the game, especially on the NFL level, from the sideline, get to understand that mental aspect of the NFL, of football, and two, and most importantly, it gives him an opportunity to finally see what he needs to work on, so when he finally gets out there on the field, he can actually thrive like we're all hoping for. And then two, and most importantly, at the end of the day, look, that is just another reliable weapon Davis Mills is going to have to make sure that he moved this ball down the field. And John, you and I, everybody except for Big Sarge are expecting Davis Mills to have a really good season during his second year as the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. And like I keep mentioning here almost every single week here on Locked On Texans, one of the best things the Texans can do to make sure they put him in the best opportunity to succeed is to make sure you surround him with enough weapons, especially with his wide receiving core. You know what you're getting out of Brandon Cooks. Nico Collins is looking like he's on the verge of a breakout season as well. If Mechie can come back and let's say give this organization, let's say 500 to 600 yards as the number 3 wide receiver, I think that is going to be a very promising and successful season for John Mechie, especially considering that he's coming off a ACL tear.
Yeah, and I like to say this. I think maybe 600 yards could be a bit much simply because it would have been different if we knew exactly from a year's worth of film what Pep Hamilton's offense is going to
Yeah,
look
it's
like
true
and who's
too.
going to be the we know Brandon Cooks is going to be heavily featured, but how are the other skill players are going to be featured in this offense? Because we've talked about how important the possibility of 2 tight ends could be, the tight ends role as well. So, but I will also look at this depth chart for Houston at their wide receiver position. Not heavily talented, not, this is not a wide receiving core where you look at and say, this is going to be dynamic because they have dynamic receivers, maybe like a Bengals, maybe like a Chargers, maybe now like the Raiders. So like when you look at other teams around the league, they have dynamic receivers. We know that this team is going to be led by Brandon Cooks at their wide receiver position, but I like the fact that for Mechie, you can time because, like you mentioned, Cody, I think Nico Collins is going to be very, very good this year for Houston. And I also look at a Philip Dorsett as another player who can be utilized in that slot position, kind of be interchanged out, but maybe he can be utilized heavily in a slot position, kind of be more of a vertical threat for Houston to take off the top down the middle. So Houston does have a couple of receivers on this depth chart that will at least allow Houston the opportunity to take their time with a receiver that they traded up for, that they really do like, and they want him here for the foreseeable future. You don't want to rush that. Let him get healthy, and then from there, they'll get him out on that field whenever he's 100% ready. But it is good to hear that he is progressing and beating every timetable for that ACL injury. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating a customized engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at a price you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Whenever you're ready to pop the question or ready to celebrate a milestone moment, from fine jewelry, as unique as her, with the most modern and convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. That's a great experience you guys can't find. We won't find any place else. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases $500 or more just simply by using Locked On at checkout. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. One live NBA draft show is not enough for Locked On. The entire NBA channel is going to go live on NBA draft night. Make sure you guys are checking out Locked On Rockets. So if you have a favorite NBA team, make sure you are subscribing to their Locked On YouTube channel so you can get notified when they go live on NBA draft night.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into this latest installment of Locked On Texans. And as promised, I have with me a guy that I'm just going to come out and say is my brother from another mother, because you guys don't understand. John and myself, we put out some great content throughout the whole entire process leading up to the 2022 NFL draft. And my man here, NFL agent Brian Miller from Ocean View Sports, did a great job helping me have an opportunity to talk to a handful of his clients. And I really want to just get him an opportunity to come on Locked On Texans, talk about his career, and talk about what is life as an NFL agent is to him. So, Brian, Mr. Miller, what's going on? And welcome to Locked On Texans.
What's going on, family? I appreciate the introduction. Man, it's a pleasure to be on this platform. What you guys are doing is incredible. You've been nothing but helpful to our athletes, being able to shed light on them and just, give them a platform to really be themselves and explain, the draft process and some of the things that, go into it.
Appreciate it, man. And before we get started, I'm wearing a Texans hat, of course. Host of Locked On Texans. You're on Locked On Texans, and you're wearing an Las
Listen,
Vegas Raiders hat. And at first, I wasn't going to say anything, but I got to. Do I gotta bring you back on come week 7 when the Texans go up to Las Vegas and try to shock the Raiders with a victory? I just need to know that before we
Hey,
start.
hey, that was that was a great game. We got to rep the silver and black. We've got Isaiah Palomeo over there, safety USC, one of my clients. He's doing incredible. Great feedback thus far throughout mandatory minicamp, rookie minicamp, and OTAs. He's making some plays, and we love to rep the Raiders over there.
Man, sounds good. Like I say, hopefully we get an opportunity to see Isaiah come week 7. Of course, when the Texans go up to Las Vegas and play against the Raiders. But Mr. Miller, we are about a month, maybe 2 months away from the conclusion of the 2022 NFL draft. And as I mentioned, you helped John and myself interview several of your clients, and throughout that whole entire process, and even people who did their coverage, looked at and read everything that has to do with the NFL draft, we always get the story, we always get the side of the story in terms of prospects, in terms of teams. We do a lot of breakdown for those two things. However, there's always an important factor that is always missing, and that is the role that an NFL agent plays into this whole entire draft process. So to start this to start this installment off, Mr. Miller, can you just talk about, what it's like being an agent during the NFL draft, especially during the free agency period, when that period opens up and that seems like you had an opportunity to get a lot of your clients signed?
Yeah, so it's a lot of long days, long nights. Not a lot of sleep. You always want to be available. You always want to be right there by that phone. You're constantly networking. You're constantly, back and forth on the phone with teams. Leading up to the draft. You're talking to all 32. You're talking to all 32, and you're starting to culminate deals. Before you even get into that fourth, fifth round. So, it's just a lot of back and forth, a lot of research. When you have a priority free agent guy and he's going to be getting a lot of looks from different teams, and, certain organizations want to bring him in, you need to identify what is their need. Are they stacked at the safety position? Is the guy a vet? Is he on the fringe? What is his injury history like? So it's so much more that goes into it than just making a phone call and saying, hey, I have this player. At the same time, it's a sales job in a sense, but you really need to be methodical with what you're doing, the research you put into it, because not everybody's a draft pick. There's so many people that make a living that are free agents, priority free agents, rookie minicamp guys that get that next opportunity because they displayed that talent. So, when you're picking a team for a guy or helping him make the right decision when he has options, you really just want to dive into it and figure out where's the best fit, you know. So, but ultimately overall, as far as the agent standpoint, leading up to the draft, you've got months and months of recruiting, building relationships with your clients, building relationships with their family, getting to know them, figuring out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So when you go send them to a training facility, you can correct the negatives, so that they can go into pro days, so they can go into the combine and some of those all-star games, full throttle and really, do their best. So it's not just cut and dry. There's a lot of different hurdles that you got to get over, and then on top of that, the media aspect. Getting the guys that aren't really recognized in that first through fourth round. Getting more publicity on them. So networking in that aspect. So definitely a ton of different avenues, but man, it's a fun process. I wake up every day and I enjoy doing it. It's something that's enjoyable, and I'm thankful to be where I'm at with it.
Um, with you wearing a Raiders hat, we started this podcast off talking about Isaiah, one of the prospects that we had an opportunity to talk to prior to the draft, and I'm so happy to hear that he's doing good. Two other prospects that we talked to were Keith Corbin from Jackson State University and Dalen Baldwin from Michigan. How are those two guys doing? Keith being with the Buffalo Bills and Dalen being with the New York Giants.
Yeah, so obviously all three guys got opportunities. Keith, man, he did amazing things this year at Jackson State under Deion Sanders. I mean, when you turned on those games, and I think I watched everyone live each and every week. I knew what they were doing was special, and I wanted to put a lot of focus on recruiting some of those guys, and just seeing what they were bringing to the table. So Keith, we sent him out to Arizona. Trained extremely hard, gets ready, has a good pro day, gets an opportunity with the Buffalo Bills. Now, mind you, we had several different opportunities on the table for him. Goes up to Buffalo, does incredible in rookie minicamp, and the organization and staff had nothing but great things to say about his performance, and looks like he's in their plans for the near future. Dalen Baldwin, man, he's so hungry. He's probably one of the hungriest guys out here. He'll tell you every time he's the best receiver in the NFL. He's the best receiver in the world, and he works like it too. So he goes up to the New York Giants rookie mini camp, has an incredible performance over that 3-day stretch. Uh, so much so that I think a day or two after the camp, publications came out and some news articles that he had the catch of camp. It was a deep seam route. I think I mentioned this earlier in the podcast. A deep seam route, extended his arms, caught it. They really highlighted that. The Giants loved his professionalism. Said he was a consummate pro. He went in there and learned the offense immediately, or whatever install that they had given. Think the night before we were rehearsing plays with each other. So that's the type of guy he is. He's really focused. They like him potentially in the future, but looks like we have some new opportunities brewing for him that we'll make an announcement on soon.
Speaking of new opportunities, another prospect that we had an opportunity to talk to, and he's still a free agent at this time, is Michael Badejo, the
Yeah.
defensive end from TSU. As of right now, NFL teams just finished mandatory mini camp, and now there's like this month break before the start of training camp. As an NFL agent, when you have other prospects who are still free agents, still looking for a job, how important is it that you try to, I guess if I could put it like this, do new recruiting trying to get your prospects in front of these NFL teams just for them to give them an opportunity during training camp?
Right. So, the NFL, they know, they know who's out there. They know who's available. They spend, months and months and months determining, the value of everybody in the draft. And of course, certain guys get overlooked, and some guys make a late push or have a big senior year and they have to reevaluate and reconsider. And I think that's a little bit of Michael's situation. He came onto the scene late but strong. He goes
Yeah.
down to the HBCU Legacy Bowl and shows that he can compete, shows that
Yes.
he's a monster. A ton of teams started, backtracking and starting to call and kind of figure out who this kid is. And, we had a lot of momentum going into the draft, but, ultimately, if a kid doesn't get an opportunity right away, that doesn't mean that he won't play in the NFL. It doesn't mean he won't be a professional. It means you stay ready. And that's what we tell all of our guys that are still waiting on an opportunity, or a guy that just was waived or released. You got to stay ready. So Michael, that's what he's doing. When training camp, opens back up in I think a month, guys get injured. Unfortunately, guys get waived because that's not what the team was looking for. They weren't the right fit. And that's when those opportunities, those second chance opportunities, become available for the players. Somebody's going to be in. Somebody's going to need a edge rusher like Michael, and he will get his chance.
I kind of view an NFL agent similar to a team scout, because it seems like a team scout, their job is never finished. After the draft, you have to go out and see that you made sure that you touched every single prospect, that you looked at every single film, you did all of your research to make sure that the guys that you put in front of the general manager and the head coach is the best guys for this organization. And that's kind of how I'm viewing the NFL agent as of right now. And it's unfortunate that not everyone is going to have an opportunity to play in the NFL. However, you do have several other prospects, several other of your clients who are making a push in pro football, rather that be in the CFL. The XFL is coming up starting next year, and you have some prospects that have entered their name in that draft. So can you just talk about, from a NFL agent standpoint, of how the job and the grind never stops, especially when you look at other leagues in hopes of
Right.
getting your clients signed?
Yeah, I mean, I tell these guys, we never stop working until you get your opportunity, and then at that point, you still never stop working, because whether you get added to the practice squad, we're still working. Hey, he had an incredible week on the practice squad. Let's get him on the active. Boom, he just had 2 touchdowns on the active roster. Let's get him an extension. So the job is not, it's constant. It's 24/7, and that's just something that you have to be well equipped to. A lot of these guys that you know we got into rookie mini camps and maybe they didn't stick, they're realistic with the expectations. I try to recruit, and there's a vetting process. I want dogs. I want players that will do whatever it takes to have a long career in the NFL or professional football. So guys that, okay, you go down to Jacksonville and you have a great rookie mini camp, but the numbers were off. You don't get the call, you don't get the contract. That's fine. That doesn't mean that it won't happen in the near future. Call me up. Hey, Mr. Miller, what's going on with Canada? I'll go up there for a year and get film. I'll prove it, and those are the type of guys you want. Now, mind you, the NFL is the ultimate goal. Ton of respect for Canada. I think, it's been going on for 100 plus years. They're a great league, but the goal is the NFL, and that's what these guys are set on. But some of them aren't afraid to go up there and do what it takes to get that film and prove to an organization that they do belong. And so it's just about identifying that next opportunity. If a guy's sitting around, keeping him ready, making sure he's staying focused, making sure his spirits are up, talking to him, making sure, he's taking care of his body. So, when you have 30 plus guys, it's constant. It's an all day thing. You want to touch base with everybody and just, make sure they're on the right path.
What are some of the steps that got you to where you are today as an NFL agent?
I think, a lot of it culminates from being a player myself. I was an athlete. I was a first team All State guy, and in Virginia, over a decade ago. Just wanting to play in the NFL myself. Wanting to be a professional football player, doing whatever it took. Scratching and fighting and clawing for different opportunities, transferring schools. Just um, not taking no for an answer. And it gave me a chance to get out and one, network, experience different universities, meet a ton of people within the industry, cross paths with people that could mentor and lead me in the right direction. I ended up getting professional football opportunities. I played a little bit. I didn't take it as far as I wanted to go, but along the journey, I met some incredible people. I learned so much, and then I got an understanding for the industry. And I knew when my playing career was over that I wanted to stay close to the game and help all of the individuals that didn't have the help. Like, you know, I didn't have the help. I didn't have a big time agent or somebody that would push or beat their fist on the table for me. So I knew I wanted to just help guys get chances.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't help everybody. That I've learned that it's hard because you can't help everyone, but you try to.
Last question before getting out of here. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, Ocean View Sports, and what is the long term goal that you are hoping for with your company?
So Ocean View Sports, the entity itself is not even a calendar year old. So super proud and excited about that. This year in the draft, we ended up getting 9 guys current NFL opportunities. a decent turnaround in the first year with the entity. Um, I think I was having a conversation with my mom, uh, maybe 10 months ago, maybe close to a year. Um, hey, what should I name this thing? Should I call it Ocean View Sports? Son, that sounds like surfing or something. Don't do it. Did it anyways, ran with it. I'm fortunate and blessed to know some of the individuals that I know, some of the athletes that I played with at Hargrave Military Academy over a decade ago. Guys like Doug Williams, his son, Martavis Bryant, a bunch of those clients and different people that opened some different doors for me. Uh, but the ultimate goal is to place as many players in professional football as possible, identify great talent, bring a level of service and commitment and loyalty to these athletes that doesn't exist, empower and teach these young men how to conduct their own business affairs, how to review and negotiate their own contracts, things that the other typical agencies aren't doing. I pride myself on being different. I'm not the best in the world, but these guys resonate with me because I was once in their shoes, and we have a lot of different things in common, and just being a friend and a family to these guys, and really pushing and being aggressive with the you know NFL conversations, and just making sure that these guys uh, get a chance. So that's kind of where we're at. I want to be um, obviously one of the bigger companies in this industry, but just do things the right way. Just be a safe haven for these guys that really want to join a group that cares about them, and it's not about just money. It's about the purpose.
Brian Miller from Ocean View Sports. Brian, really quick, where can our listeners follow you on social media and as well as your company as well?
Absolutely. So, we can be found on social media at Ocean View Sports. That's on Instagram, Twitter at OVS Agency. And, we also have oceanviewsports.com. Pretty big platform on Instagram. That's where we're most active and have a lot of content about our guys. And, you can keep up with the company there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Brian. And we definitely got to get you back on come week 7, Texans Raiders.
Yeah, let's go to that game. Let's go to that
Hey,
game.
sounds good, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. So BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check on all of your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all of the trends because BetOnline is where the game starts. The first picks of the Ultimate NBA mock drafts has been made. Search now for Ultimate NBA mock draft and get over 50 insiders, the Odyssey sports experts, the draft experts of the Locked On NBA Big Board will all be included in this amazing process. The 5-episode Ultimate NBA mock draft is underway. Make Ultimate NBA Lock Draft your second listen today.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this latest installment of Locked On Texans. And once again, that was Brian Miller, NFL agent for Ocean View Sports. And by the way, you guys heard our guy, Mr. Michael Badejo, defensive end from TSU, is still a free agent. So we've been talking about it a lot. We've been talking about it a lot. The Houston Texans, that defensive line, more so the defensive end, is probably the one aspect of the roster that we still think can use another player in hopes of upgrading that talent. And We know what Michael Badejo can bring. However, John, as of right now, I spoke to Michael Badejo. He is preparing to get himself ready for the 2023 XFL draft,
Oh,
which brings us to our next topic, just how important it is to see the CFL and the XFL coming back. You know, just giving these guys an opportunity to continue trying to make their dreams of making the NFL.
yeah. Also, the USFL as well. I think it's great, man.
Who are in the
I think,
playoffs right now, as a matter of fact, too.
yeah, I think it's great that there are leagues out there that are giving some of these young men an opportunity to play ball and kind of keep them in a position where they're still doing their day to day passions. I think that's great. And I think that it's also great that these leagues, especially when you look at XFL, I want to say who's being ran by Dwayne The Rock Johnson. If you smell, but I think it's great that they are finding adequate partnerships to make sure that these guys are getting viewed. Now, of course, it's going to be interesting to see how these leagues are able to kind of pan out and bring longevity. That is where I would like to see the NFL maybe partner with them hand in hand, and maybe get some of that exposure over to them. But again, I think it's great. You never know what this game means to some people, the seriousness of it, and why some people may play this game. And so now, if you don't make the NBA, I mean the NFL, kind of like the NBA, if you don't make it to the big leagues, the one that everybody tunes into, you still have an opportunity to let your talents get showcased. And who knows, NFL may call you up, just like the NBA calls you up from the G League, or when it comes to the MLB, they're AAA, AA, everything with that. So I love the idea of multiple leagues. And I love the fact that these guys are able to still play what they love. Thank you for checking out today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to the Locked On Texans on YouTube. Also, follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans as well.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. If you are a fan of the Houston Rockets, of course, check out our guy, JT Gatlin over at Locked On Rockets. The NBA draft is this week. And in addition to Jackson, please be sure to check out. Oh, gosh. Please be sure to check out my work over at Sports Illustrated Inside the Rockets. I'm also doing draft coverage over there as well. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.